let me tell you something that might hurt. You're not lazy. You're terrified. And that terror has convinced you that movement equals progress. That if you just keep moving, checking emails, switching tasks, attending meetings, consuming content, you're doing something important. You're being productive. But listen to me carefully. You're not being productive. You're running in place. And your brain knows it. Think about the last time you ended your day exhausted but unfulfilled. You did things. Lots of things. You crossed items off lists. You responded, you attended, you consumed, you moved. But when you lay in bed that night, there was this hollow feeling, wasn't there? This sense that despite all that movement, nothing actually changed. Nothing was built. Nothing progressed. And here's what's happening. Your nervous system has learned to confuse activity with achievement, busyness with purpose, motion with meaning. You've been trained by school, by work culture, by social media, by every productivity guru who's ever sold you a system, to believe that if you're not constantly doing something, you're failing. So you panic, and panic creates movement, but panic never creates progress. Think about it. When you're truly panicking, what do? You check your phone, you refresh your email, you rearrange your to-do list. You watch one more video about productivity, you reorganize your desk, you switch tabs frantically as if the answer is hiding somewhere in your browser. This is not work. This is anxiety performing the theater of work. And I need you to understand something crucial. Your brain can tell the difference. Deep down, beneath all that frantic energy, your brain knows when you're actually building something meaningful, and when you're just moving to avoid the discomfort of sitting still. Here's the truth no one tells you. Progress is quiet. Progress often looks like nothing is happening. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people writing a book. Person A sits at their desk from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. They open their document. They read articles about writing. They organize their notes. They create elaborate outlines. They join writing communities online. They talk about their book constantly. They feel productive. They feel like a writer. At the end of 3 months, they have 2,000 words. Person B writes for 45 minutes every morning before work. Some days it's painful. Some days they delete everything. Some days they write 50 words. Some days they write 500. They don't talk about it much. They don't look productive. They sit there staring at a screen, typing slowly, deleting, rewriting. At the end of 3 months, they have 40,000 words and a complete first draft. What's the difference? Person A was moving. Person B was progressing. Person A was managing anxiety through activity. Person B was doing the actual uncomfortable work of creation. And here's the trick. Progress usually feels worse than movement, at least in the beginning, because movement gives you immediate relief. Every time you check your email, your brain gets a little hit of, I'm doing something. Every time you switch tasks, you feel busy. Every time you attend a meeting, you feel important. Every time you consume information, you feel like you're learning. Movement is anxiety's favorite drug, but progress? Progress demands that you sit with discomfort. Progress asks you to focus on one difficult thing for longer than feels good. Progress requires you to not know if what you're doing is working until much, much later. Progress is the deep work your panic is protecting you from. Listen to me carefully. Your brain wasn't designed for panic-driven productivity. It was designed for something much more intelligent. Think about how humans actually solved problems for thousands of years. Not by frantically multitasking, not by constantly switching contexts, not by creating elaborate systems to manage overwhelm. They focused, they observed, they experimented, they built one thing at a time, they rested, they reflected, they iterated. Progress is biological, panic is cultural. And what we've done is build a culture that rewards panic and punishes progress. Think about how your workplace measures productivity. Is it by the depth of your thinking, the quality of your solutions, The elegance of your code or your writing or your designs? No. It's by the number of emails you sent, the meetings you attended, how quickly you respond, how busy you look. We've created a world that literally cannot see the difference between meaningful work and the appearance of work. And your nervous system has adapted. It's learned that to feel safe, you must look busy. To feel valuable, you must move constantly. To avoid judgment, you must never ever sit still and focus deeply on one thing. But here's what that's doing to you. It's making you worse at everything. Because deep work, real progress, requires a completely different state. It requires what psychologists call flow. That state where you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time disappears. That state where your brain is fully engaged with a single challenge, turning it over, finding patterns, making connections, creating solutions. You can't enter flow when you're panicking. You can't enter flow when you're checking Slack every 3 minutes. You can't enter flow when you're switching between 5 different tasks. You can't enter flow when you're afraid that if you focus deeply on one thing, you're neglecting everything else. Flow requires safety. It requires the nervous system to believe, I can put my full attention here. Nothing terrible will happen if I ignore everything else for the next hour. And that's the beautiful part. That's the secret that changes everything. Progress isn't about doing more. It's about feeling safe enough to do less. It's about creating conditions where your brain can stop running from imaginary tigers and actually build something real. So how do you do this? How do you escape the panic productivity trap? First, you have to name it. You have to start noticing when you're moving versus when you're progressing. Pay attention to how your body feels. Movement feels agitated, scattered, urgent. Progress feels focused, even if it's uncomfortable. Movement is running, progress is climbing. Second, you have to give yourself permission to look unproductive. Because progress often looks like staring at a wall, like thinking, like writing and deleting, like working on one single thing for 2 hours while 17 other things wait. You have to be willing to disappoint the part of you that measures worth by activity. Third, you have to create boundaries around your attention. And I don't just mean turning off notifications. I mean protecting entire blocks of time where you allow yourself to progress on one thing, where you tell your panic, not now. Right now, we build. This is hard. Your brain will scream that you should be doing something else, that you're being irresponsible, that you're falling behind. Let it scream. Keep building. Because here's what I know to be true. At the end of your life, you won't remember how busy you looked. You'll remember what you actually created, what you actually built, the moments when you stopped running and started climbing. You weren't born to be busy. You were born to build something that matters. And building requires that you stop confusing the two, that you learn to tell the difference between the frantic movement of anxiety and the steady, uncomfortable, quiet work of progress. One exhausts you and leaves nothing behind. The other transforms you and creates something real. So I want you to think about this today. I want you to ask yourself, how much of my day is movement and how much is progress? And here's what I want you to do. Write in the comments below with just one sentence. The last thing I actually built was, don't overthink it. Just notice what comes to mind. Because awareness is the first step. If this resonated with you, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. We're building a community of people who refuse to let panic steal their potential. And hit the like button. It helps more people find these ideas. Remember, you're not lazy. You're terrified. And terror has convinced you that movement equals progress. But you're smarter than that. Your brain knows the difference. It's time to listen to it. Now go build something real.